Is Andy Dalton the answer for the Carolina Panthers? Welcome back to Only Talk Sports. We talk sports every single day, or at least we try to. I'm Ernst Jeffrey. Subscribe to the channel if you like sports content. Hit that notification bell so you never miss our video. The Carolina Panthers actually won a game. They beat the Las Vegas Raiders this past Sunday 36-22. And really, they beat them by more than that because the Raiders, they scored 15 points in the fourth quarter. Kind of looked like the Carolina Panthers defense was playing a little bit of prevent defense in the fourth. They already had a big lead, so they were kind of just letting the Raiders dink and dunk down the field. So they were able to score a couple touchdowns in the fourth. That at the end of the game really did not matter all that much. But the fact still remains that the Panthers actually won an NFL game. It's almost been a year since they won an NFL game. That's how bad the Panthers have been. They only won 2 games last year. And Bryce Young, he did not have a really good rookie year at all, but at least he was able to win a couple of games. But the Panthers, the way they were looking the first 2 games of this season, it did not look like they were going to even win a game this season. Bryce Young was playing poorly. He was making the wrong decisions, the wrong reads. And yes, the Panthers' offensive line is still really bad, but there were decisions that Bryce Young made in the first 2 games of the season that were just poor. He did not throw the ball away a couple of times when he should have, and it just made it look like Bryce Young really wasn't the best option at quarterback for the Carolina Panthers. So insert Andy Dalton, and immediately when Andy Dalton comes in for the Carolina Panthers, the Panthers' offense actually had life. And with the fact that the Panthers could now throw the ball down the field, it made their running game do better as well. When you look at the box score for this game, Andy Dalton was the first quarterback this season to throw for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns in the NFL. Of all the great quarterbacks in the NFL, and Andy Dalton, the backup quarterback for the Carolina Panthers, ends up being the first quarterback to do that this season in the NFL. And yes, he's been a starting quarterback for the majority of his career in the NFL, especially when he was at the Cincinnati Bengals, but he is toward the tail end of his career. He's older. He's in his mid-30s. He's probably not going to be in the NFL for too many more seasons, but he went out there and showed that Andy Dalton still has a little bit of life left in him. He's still got it, even if it's not going to be for too many more years. And when you look at the running game, Chuba Hubbard ran for 114 yards in this game. So the Panthers were actually able to run the ball. And a big reason why is because when you can throw the ball down the field, when you can put pressure on the defense through the air, then they have to back up more on defense, worry about the passing game, allows the running game to do a lot better. When Bryce Young was at quarterback the first 2 weeks of the season, the Panthers couldn't run the ball at all because their offense was terrible. Bryce Young wasn't doing anything on offense, and Chuba Hubbard, Miles Sanders couldn't get any running lanes. But is Andy Dalton the long-term answer for the Carolina Panthers? Because now some people are saying, can the Panthers win the South? I would not go anywhere as far as to say that, because the Saints, even though they did choke up this past week, they're still looking like a good team this season. The Falcons, even though they're 1-2, they look like a more complete team right now than the Carolina Panthers. But this win does give the Panthers a chance to be able to win some games this season. Maybe not be a playoff team. It's possible. I would not count on it. But I do think the Panthers should win more games this season than they did last year, as long as they stick with Andy Dalton at quarterback. And why did Dave Canellis, the head coach for the Panthers, go with Andy Dalton this week? It's because of the fact that Bryce Young was probably not going to continue to improve this season. He needs a lot more polishing. He probably just needs to be on a completely different team to have a shot, a team with a better offensive line, better receivers, to have a chance to succeed. Even then, he still might not succeed because he is really short, and only Kyler Murray's really having any success in the NFL being that short in the modern day NFL, and even he has a lot of struggles, but still he is dynamic enough running the ball that he can kind of escape pressure a lot of the time. And now that he's got Marvin Harrison Jr., they're doing a little bit better. But Bryce Young, it just doesn't look like his long-term future is going to be with the Carolina Panthers. Whether he can succeed at another team is to be determined. Only time will tell. Maybe he somehow gets reinserted into the lineup. But Dave Canellis did not want to get fired like Frank Reich did. That's why he went with Andy Dalton. Frank Reich got fired after 11 games last year. Dave Canellis probably was like, that fate's going to be me as well if I do not switch things up and give my team a chance to win. And Andy Dalton, he is that short-term answer for the Panthers. Is he the long-term answer? I do not think so. He is too old. He's in his mid-30s, as I already mentioned, and he is a guy that I just do not know how many more years he's going to be good in the NFL. I mean, the Bengals got rid of him because he was trailing in the wrong direction. This might just be one game where he plays very well for the Panthers, and then after that, he just does not showcase the same success after that. So even though everybody in the media is giving Andy Dalton praise right now, we have seen quarterbacks come in and have lightning in a bottle where they play good for one game. Look at Joshua Dobbs last year for the Vikings. Had a couple games where he played really well. People are like, he's the long-term future for the Vikings. Then he isn't the long-term future for the Vikings. They end up drafting J.J. McCarthy. They end up getting Sam Darnold through the trade market. So, yeah, it was not Joshua Dobbs. He had a couple of good games. So, I don't believe Andy Dalton is the long-term answer for the Panthers because, for one thing, of his age. Also, because I don't think he's going to continue to play this well. And the Panthers' offensive line is garbage still. Even though Andy Dalton did really well in this game, he was pressured a lot, and he was sacked a few times. Took some hard hits, and at his age, he's not going to be a guy that will be able to take too many more hits that are that hard. So the Panthers are going to have to do a better job of protecting him. Even though he is a big quarterback, he can take hits. I just don't want to see a guy that old taking that many big hits. Young guys can get hurt too, but when you're older, look at Aaron Rodgers. You need to be able to keep him upright. You have to continue to protect him so he'll be able to stay out there on the field. And even if the Panthers do protect him enough and he doesn't get hurt this season, I just don't think that the Panthers need to roll with Andy Dalton for the next 3 or 4 years. Even if he does somehow lead the Panthers to 8 or 9 wins this year, they need to be looking toward the future at the quarterback position, whether they end up trading for a younger quarterback or drafting another quarterback. The Panthers don't need to do any ridiculous trade like they just did to get Bryce Young. That was ridiculous, giving the Bears all that they did, but maybe they can draft a quarterback this draft cycle, get a guy in the first round, and be able to replace Bryce Young if Bryce Young doesn't end up ever developing into anything at the Panthers. And what they also need to do is bolster that offensive line and get some wide receivers. Deontay Johnson was a good addition. Don't get me wrong. He was big in this game against the Raiders and Andy Dalton's #1 target. So that's a big sign for the Panthers that at least they have a guy that actually can put pressure on the defense. Adam Thielen is a good slot receiver, but he's showing his age as well. He got banged up in this game. So the Panthers need more weapons on the outside. I think they need a better back than Miles Sanders to complement Chuba Hubbard. They need better offensive linemen, a more dynamic tight end, and continue to bolster the defense. Brian Burns, he's a really good player that they let go. Shaq Thompson's a good defender. J.C. Horn's solid, but they need a little bit more oomph on the defense. But you can tell the Panthers defense can still be solid, even if the offense just shows a little bit of life. You got to get them off the field. You have to let them rest, take a break, and be able to come out there with something to play for. When the Panthers offense came to life in this game, they showed up to play and did really well against the Raiders, save for a couple of drives in the fourth quarter. But the Panthers still need to bolster their defense a little bit more. And even though the Raiders might be a bad team, maybe they're not good this year at all. Gardner Minshew wasn't bad, but he didn't really put a lot of pressure on the defense outside of a couple throws. This is a good sign for the Panthers that they aren't completely trash. Even if David Tepper's made all the wrong moves and he's put this team basically in the garbage can, the Panthers still have some quality talent. And Andy Dalton is the short-term answer, I believe, for the Carolina Panthers until he gets hurt or until he starts playing bad, maybe in a few games or in a year or two. Andy Dalton, he's what the Panthers need right now to just give the fans some hope, give the fans some life, the team some life, the players to get out there and actually play hard to be able to win a game because they believe they can win, but he's not the long-term answer. The Panthers have to figure out the quarterback position in the future, whether it's going to be Bryce Young or most likely some other quarterback, and they have to get a better offensive line and better weapons or they'll never be a great team in the NFL. But at least Andy Dalton gives Panthers fans some hope while Bryce Young is benched, because if not, the Panthers probably would have lost every single game this season. And now with Andy Dalton at quarterback, they might at least be able to be slightly competitive in the NFL this season. Subscribe to the channel if you like sports content. Like this video down below. Comment down below what you think about Andy Dalton coming in for the Carolina Panthers and leading them to their first victory of the season, and whether you believe that he is the short-term or long-term answer for the Carolina Panthers at quarterback, and how many games, as long as Andy Dalton stays healthy, that you think the Carolina Panthers will be able to win this season. Follow me on Twitter as well. Link is in the description, and I'll see you next time.